What if somewhere beyond time, your true name is already written? What if, before the first breath you ever took, a hand you have never seen inscribed the story you have yet to live, and sealed it in a book you were never meant to open? Welcome, seeker of forgotten records. Today we step into a mystery older than temples, older than prophets, older even than the stones where the first prayers were carved. The mystery of the Book of Life. Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you will not only understand what the ancients believed about this hidden ledger, you will also see why the question of whether your name is in it or not has been the most urgent question across civilizations. The idea begins far from the familiar pages of the Bible, long before Jerusalem's stones were laid, long before the prophets cried in the streets. The peoples of the ancient Near East imagined the heavens as a great archive. In Mesopotamia, the scribal god Nabu was called upon in prayer to inscribe the days of life upon a tablet. They called them the tablets of destinies, the mystical records that set the course of kings and commoners alike. In these clay inscriptions, fate was not a vague current. It was a decree, etched into something eternal, beyond appeal. When this image crossed into the Hebrew imagination, it transformed. By the time of the psalmists, the heavenly book was no longer just a record of events. It became a register of persons. The psalmist cries, "Let them be blotted out of the book of the living. Let them not be enrolled among the righteous." To be written in God's book was to live under his favor. To be erased from it was to lose both breath and blessing. Moses, standing between God's anger and Israel's guilt, dared to pray, "Forgive their sin, or blot me out of the book you have written." Here, the book is not a symbol of abstract destiny. It is the intimate role of those whom God holds close. In these earliest echoes, the Book of Life is bound to the pulse of earthly days. It is about survival, about belonging, about whether the next dawn will rise for you. But slowly, as prophets spoke and visions grew, the book began to turn its pages toward eternity. Isaiah sees it. Whoever is left in Zion, everyone who is recorded for life in Jerusalem, shall be called holy. Here the register is no longer about the next harvest, the next year. It is about an age to come, a city remade. And then comes the vision of Daniel, written in days when empires rose like storms and fell like dust. At that time, the seer writes, everyone whose name shall be found written in the book will be delivered. The book has become a final refuge, opened in the hour when all else collapses. Those inscribed are not merely spared from a single death. They are lifted into unending life. In the hidden libraries of the Second Temple period, the image multiplies. Jubilee speaks of two heavenly books, one for the righteous, one for the lost. The righteous are written into the book of life. The corrupt are inscribed into the book of perdition. The ancient scribe of 1 Enoch sees the Ancient of Days seated, the books opened, and the names of the righteous shining within them, while the names of the wicked are blotted out. Het Qumran, the desert sect that waited for the end. Fragments whisper of God inscribing the faithful. Of the book of remembrance opened in the last war. Multiple ledgers, multiple purposes. The book of life for names, the books of deeds for works, the books of fate for what is to come, all of them kept by the one who forgets nothing. Pause for a moment Imagine your own name, not just spoken, not just remembered by family, but inscribed in a place where no hand can reach to erase it. Would that change how you live the next hour? In Judaism, this vision became woven into the living cycle of the year. At Rosh Hashanah, they say, 3 books are opened in heaven, for the righteous, for the wicked, and for those in between. 10 days of trembling follow, days when the pen is said to be still moving, until Yom Kippur seals the pages. The prayer rises in synagogues, inscribe us in the book of life, not just for survival, but for the sake of serving the living God. Some took it as metaphor, a way to teach repentance. Others held it as literal truth, believing angels tremble as the judge turns the pages. Either way, the image was meant to awaken urgency. Choose life, so that your name may be written for blessing. The mystics carried it further. The Zohar speaks of registers in the higher worlds. Hasidic teachers whispered that each mitzvah inscribes a line. Each act of love deepens the ink. The book was no longer only in heaven. It was written through you as you live. Now, the scene shifts. The early followers of Jesus take up the same language. He tells them, "Rejoice that your names are written in heaven." Paul speaks of co-workers whose names are in the book of life. The promise is no longer only for a people or a year. It is personal, intimate, tied to the bond between the believer and the one they call the Lamb. And then comes the revelation. 7 times the book is named, each time in the shadow of judgment. The dead stand before the throne, books are opened, and another book, the book of life, decides the final sentence. If the name is found within, the gates of the New Jerusalem opened. If not, the text says only the lake of fire, but Revelation adds a title, the Lamb's Book of Life. The names are those redeemed, cleansed, chosen. Some read these lines and hear the iron voice of predestination, names written from the foundation of the world, never to be altered. Others point to the warnings. I will never blot out the name of the one who overcomes, which, by its very wording, suggests names can be blotted out. Across the centuries, theologians have argued, is the list eternal and fixed, or is it living, able to receive and lose names? Augustine saw it as God's perfect foreknowledge. The erasures are from our perspective, not his. Others have insisted the choice is alive in every moment. Faithfulness writes the name. Betrayal erases it. And you, if the choice were yours to make now, which path would you take? Because in every tradition, Jewish, Christian, Islamic, mystical, the book of life is not just a ledger of destiny. It is an invitation to live as though the ink is still wet, to act as if the next line is yet to be written, to decide what will be remembered when the final page turns. Some say the book of life is sealed from before the first dawn. Others say the ink moves with every choice you make. In the ancient churches, this was not a casual question. It was the fault line running beneath the entire idea of salvation. Augustine looked at the pages and saw the handwriting of eternity. For him, the book was God's mind itself, holding the names of those who would, without fail, enter eternal life. If a name appeared erased, it meant only that it had never truly been there in the eternal sense. Its earlier appearance was for human eyes, not for the author's. Thomas Aquinas refined this further. The book, he said, is the divine remembrance of the predestined. God does not need to write the names of the lost, for the book exists only to preserve the chosen. Yet, in another sense, he allowed, the term could apply to those presently alive in grace, people who might yet fall. From our side, a name can appear and vanish. From God's side, it is unalterable. But not all followed this path. In the fiery sermons of Armenian preachers, the book is living, its lines vulnerable to neglect or betrayal. A believer's name is written in the moment of faith, but unfaithfulness can blot it out. Revelation's warning, "I will not erase the name of the one who overcomes," is read as a promise with a shadow, implying erasure for those who do not. Here the book becomes more than a symbol. It is a mirror of the human struggle. Some cling to the comfort that nothing can shake what God has written. Others live in the awareness that every day is a page, every act a line, every refusal to love a faint scratching at the ink. Imagine for a moment that you could see your own entry. Would you find your name traced in steady, eternal strokes, or faded, trembling at the edge of the margin? From the vaulted cathedrals of Europe to the whispered prayers of desert hermits, this tension has endured. Predestination or free will, an eternal census or a living diary. The Book of Life holds the question in its very nature, half comfort, half challenge. And beyond the world of Christendom, the motif flows into another current. In the Quran, it is written, indeed, it is in the preserved tablet. Allah al-Mahf, the cosmic archive, contains all that was, is, and will be. Muslim tradition holds that the first thing created was the pen, and that it wrote on this tablet every event to come. Here the record is not limited to the righteous. It is the total weave of creation, unchangeable, perfect in scope. But on the day of reckoning, the human story will be distilled into another set of books. The record of the wicked is kept in Sijjan, the record of the righteous in Iliyin. And what will make you know what Iliyin is? A written record, witnessed by those brought near to God. Each person will be handed their own book of deeds. To receive it in the right hand is to find joy. To receive it in the left is to fall into despair. Can you feel the echo? The same drama, the same unveiling. Though the names change, the architecture of judgment remains. In Judaism, it is the annual opening of the heavenly ledger. In Christianity, the Lamb's book at the throne. In Islam, the preserved tablet and the books of deeds. In all, there is a moment when what is written is revealed. Islam too holds the tension between destiny and choice. The ink on the tablet is said to have dried. It will not change. Yet the believer lives as if it might. Striving, repenting, praying. During the night of destiny in Ramadan, it is believed the decrees of the coming year descend from the tablet, a night of pleading and hope. It is not unlike the trembling 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, two traditions worlds apart, joined by the image of a pen still moving in the unseen. The mystics of Islam turned the image inward. Sufi poets sang of the soul's pages being turned by God's hand, of a register where the lovers of the divine are written in light. In some visions, the record of the saved is white, the record of the lost is black, and the prophet rejoices that the people of Iliyin will be many. Though the language shifts, the longing is the same. To be known, to be kept, to be remembered in a place where forgetting is impossible. And here, between the firmness of decree and the freedom of the heart, the book of life, or its mirrors in other faiths, becomes not just a doctrine, but a spiritual landscape. One path says, "Rest, for your place is fixed." Another says, "Rise, for your page is still open." Which one would you rather believe? Because in the end, whether the ink has dried or the scribe still writes, the call is the same. Live as if your name is worth inscribing in the deepest book the universe holds. Not all speak of the book of life in the language of law and judgment. Some whisper of it as a library, a living archive woven into the fabric of reality itself. In the halls of Hermetic philosophy, the universe is the script of the divine mind. Every star, every motion, every thought, letters in an endless text. The ancient masters said the cosmos itself was written with the Logos, the ordering word, and to read it was to approach the mind of God. They did not always call it the book of life, but they knew the pattern, a record not on parchment or clay, but on the living substance of the world. The Gnostics, those seekers of the hidden Christ, spoke of names written in the mind of the Father. In their secret gospels, to be saved was to be inscribed with the true name, known only to those who had awakened. Some texts echo the canonical words, written in the book of the living, but they meant a register beyond the reach of the demiurge, beyond the false order of a shadowed world. To be written, there was not just to be safe, it was to be free from the prison of the spheres. Imagine, for a moment, that the truest record of your life is not kept in the sky, but within your own awakened mind. Would you dare to read it? Centuries later, a new current rose in the Theosophical movement, the Akashic Records. Drawing on the Sanskrit word akasha, the subtle ether, they described a cosmic compendium containing every thought, word, and deed. Not a ledger of salvation or damnation, but a total memory of the universe, accessible to those with the gift to see. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, spoke of reading these records as one might read a book, finding in them causes of illness, the patterns of past lives, even the threads of future events. Here the book of life becomes a mirror without judgment, reflecting simply what is, what has been, and what might be. But even this reflection is not neutral. Those who claim to touch the Akasha say that by understanding its patterns, one can shape the lines yet to be written. In anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner called it the Akashic Chronicle, a subtle record inscribed in the world's very being. For him, it was possible to read the ancient past, Atlantis, the lives of great teachers, by entering the right state of consciousness. The metaphor returned to its oldest form, the indestructible tablets of the astral light, like the Mesopotamian tablets of destiny, reborn in esoteric science. And yet, not all sacred registers are Western. In the temples of Hindu tradition, the god Chitragupta is said to keep a ledger of every person's actions, presenting it to Yama, the god of death, when judgment comes. In Buddhism, karma itself is a kind of record, impersonal, precise, impossible to erase. In Zoroastrian lore, the deeds of the soul are weighed at the Shinvat bridge, the balance itself reading like a book. Across these traditions, the book is not always bound in leather, nor written in ink. Sometimes it is the stars. Sometimes it is the weave of cause and effect. Sometimes it is your own conscience, unrolling itself before you in the silence of the night. And here lies a subtle truth. Whether you see it as a heavenly scroll, a cosmic database, or the patterns of karma, the record serves the same purpose. It reminds you that nothing is lost, that every act, every choice, every moment of love or neglect is gathered somewhere, in heaven, in the deep mind, in the memory of the cosmos itself. Close your eyes. If you could turn the pages of your own hidden record, what would you find written most often? Fear or love? The question has haunted prophets, theologians, and poets alike. If your name is written, can it ever be erased? In the ancient Psalms, the plea is raw. Blot them out of the book of the living. In Exodus, God answers Moses' intercession with a warning. Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. These are not gentle metaphors. They are visions of a ledger that changes with the heart of the one it names. In Jewish tradition, this possibility is woven into the rhythm of the year. On Rosh Hashanah, 3 books are opened. The righteous are written for life, the wicked for death. The rest hover in the middle, their fate decided by repentance before Yom Kippur seals the page. It is a living drama. Even the condemned may return. Even the blessed may fall. The pen moves in mercy and in justice. For some sages, this is a teaching tool, a way to awaken urgency without committing to a literal pen in the heavens. But for others, it is more than symbol. It is a spiritual fact that your status is never beyond the reach of change. Christianity inherited this tension and deepened it. To Augustine, God's foreknowledge made erasure impossible for the truly elect. If a name vanishes, it was never truly there in the eternal sense, only in the visible, earthly register. From this view, the threats of blotting out are meant to keep the faithful vigilant, not to suggest God's plan can be altered. But in the voices of other traditions, the risk is real. Revelation's promise, I will never blot out the name of the one who overcomes, carries an unspoken shadow that those who do not overcome will lose their place. In this reading, salvation is not a static possession, but a living covenant, one that can be broken. Faith must be tended like a flame, neglected, and the page grows cold. Islam frames the question differently. The preserved tablets' ink has dried. It will not change. Yet, the believer is called to live as though every act shapes the unfolding decree. During Laylat al-Qadr, the night of destiny, it is believed that the events of the coming year descend from the tablet into the earthly realm. It is a night of prayer, of seeking forgiveness, of asking to be among the people of Iliin, whose record is honored. Predestination stands, yet the heart moves within it. The mystics across these faiths agree on one thing. Whether or not the record can change, you cannot know the answer until the book is opened. And so, the wise live as if every breath is being inscribed in real time. Pause here. If you knew that your next act would be the one recorded in bold, the one that defined your entry, would it change what you are about to do? This question has power because it sits between two truths. Yours. 1. You are known completely from before the foundation of the world. 2. You are free to choose, and what you choose will be remembered. Some have tried to resolve the paradox. Others have let it stand, seeing in it the mystery of divine and human wills intertwined. Perhaps the point is not to solve it, but to live fully within it, to act with the weight of eternity and the lightness of grace at once. In this way, the Book of Life is more than a celestial object. It is a discipline. It teaches vigilance without despair, hope without complacency. It invites you to hold your life as if it is being read aloud to the one who matters most. And maybe it is. The image is older than memory. Yeah, a vast book opened by unseen hands. Its pages gleam, not with ink, but with light. Every word is alive, every name a constellation, every line a thread weaving into the tapestry of eternity. Artists of the Middle Ages painted it as a literal volume held by Christ on the Day of Judgment. In illuminated manuscripts, angels turn its leaves while the dead rise below, each soul leaning forward to see if their name is there. On cathedral tympanums, the book is carved in stone, its weight almost visible, the letters etched with an otherworldly gravity. In Eastern Orthodox iconography, the eternal register is sometimes held by the Archangel Michael, the warrior scribe, who weighs hearts and records verdicts. In Islamic miniature painting, the preserved tablet is shown as a glowing slab guarded by angels, suspended in the realm of the unseen. While in Jewish art, the high holidays bring the image of 3 heavenly books hovering above the worshipper in gold and shadow. The Renaissance took the imagery further. Allegorical engravings showed scholars at cosmic desks, quills writing not only words but planetary alignments, as if the heavens themselves were annotations to the divine text. And yet, for all its visual splendor, the book has also lived in silence, in monastic cells, in whispered prayers, in the stillness before sleep. The believer has felt its presence without ever seeing it, a sense that one's life is both deeply private and profoundly witnessed. In modern times, the Book of Life has stepped beyond religion's borders. Writers have turned it into a metaphor for memory, identity, and the human story. Films and novels imagine it as a device of fate, a ledger that can be stolen, rewritten, or destroyed, with worlds shifting as the ink changes. Self-help teachers speak of writing your own chapter, or erasing limiting beliefs, as if the cosmic register were waiting for your edits. But even stripped of theology, the symbol refuses to die. It calls to something primal, the need to be known, to be remembered, to matter beyond the vanishing of the body. And here is the paradox. The mystics, never tired of repeating, you are already written, and yet you are still writing. The ink is both permanent and wet beneath your hand. The book is closed and it is open. You may never hold it in your grasp. You may never see the page where your name rests. But you can live as though the next line will echo forever. Pause. Feel the weight of that thought. What word would you choose if it had to be the next one inscribed beside your name? The ancient teachers would tell you this. Do not wait for the final opening of the book to know its verdict. Every act, every mercy, every moment of truth is already the reading of your own record. Live, so that when the pages turn, the light itself pauses to linger over your name. Because in the end, the Book of Life is not merely about being remembered. It is about being worth remembering. So, seeker, as you step from this moment into the next, ask yourself not just if your name is written, but what it is written for.